Rome, July 2025. Bells crash against police whistles in St. Peter's Square while 1,000,000 pilgrims funnel toward the colonnade. Among the bright vests and steel barricades stride men in white linen tunics stitched with crimson crosses. They steer families through bottlenecks, bless toddlers hoisted on shoulders, and redirect parents who drift toward the wrong archway. Their faces stay calm, but every step feels rehearsed, almost military. Tour guide whispers ripple through the crowd. Those are the Knights Templar. 7 centuries after the last Templar burned at the stake, the order appears to have returned to the Vatican. Did the Brotherhood truly rise from ash, or had it never vanished at all? Hold that question, because tonight's story hinges on whether flame can erase a legacy or merely scorch its outer shell. The modern volunteers call themselves the Militia Templi. The Vatican's dicastery for evangelization invited them to serve during the Holy Year. Each member bought their own plane ticket, sleeps on a narrow cot in a borrowed parish hall, and patrols 12-hour shifts for no wages, only the promise of indulgences. At dawn, they assemble in the sacristy, study hazard maps, slip rosaries through their belts, and march into heat that shimmers off the cobblestones. Their discipline looks like soldiering, yet their weapons are bottled water and gentle explanations. For pilgrims, the red cross on white cloth blurs myth and present tense until both feel equally real. That blur is the first crack we'll pry open. To trace the crack, we drive 2 hours north into Tuscany. Castello della Magione crowns a low hill above rows of Sangiovese vines. A single gravel road climbs to a gatehouse built when Frederick Barbarossa still rode the Italian valleys. Inside, cloisters of warm stone open onto a courtyard scented with drying grapes. At dusk, novices in plain robes chant Latin psalms that echo against arches darkened by 8 centuries of wood smoke. The prior explains that the entire complex follows the original Templar rule: communal property, absolute obedience, strict poverty. No member may own a car, no donor may earmark a gift. Money belongs to the mission or not at all. Yet obedience to whom? In 1312, Pope Clement V issued the Bull Vox in Excelso, dissolving the Order of the Temple by name, transferring its properties to the Hospitallers, and forbidding former brethren from forming new chapters. On parchment, the verdict sounds final, but closer reading reveals a lawyer's loophole. The bull bans the name, not the rule. A fraternity that lived the statutes in silence could endure, provided bishops looked away. How wide was that loophole? Wide enough for an army of monks on horseback to stroll through history wearing borrowed coats of paint. A bigger question clings to the flames that followed. King Philip IV of France owed the Templars a fortune, money he could never repay. 2 years after the order's suppression, Philip watched Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, burn on an island in the Seine. The bonfire erased debts with brutal efficiency, yet ecclesiastical ledgers suggest the liability did not disappear, it migrated. Domains in Provence, Aragon, and Cyprus changed hands overnight through cryptic entries. Guardians of the bridge, wardens of the vine, the wax seal beside each transfer, a sword-armed cross, one arm deliberately broken as though the scribe were winking across centuries. Then comes October 13th, 1307, the day arrests began. Royal agents marched into La Rochelle with warrants, but found 40 Templar ships had sailed at dawn, holds loaded, destination unregistered. No port recorded the vessels again. Did they carry treasure? Refugees? The Vatican archive offers silence. Every generation since has rewritten the manifest. Some fill crates with gold florins, others with the Holy Grail, still others with lost genealogies that might resurrect royal claims. One fact refuses to fade. The fleet vanished beyond the Bay of Biscay precisely when vanishing mattered most. money, not myth, leaves firmer footprints. Decades after the trials, European pilgrims still cashed Templar letters of credit along the major routes to Rome, Santiago, and Jerusalem. In dusty account books, the payee line shifts from fratres templi to bland merchant guilds, but the imprint of twin knights sharing one horse, the order's emblem of humble brotherhood, remains. Bankers honored the mark because it never defaulted. Paper kept the order breathing even while every public voice swore it was dead. Across Spain, Portugal, and Scotland, small confraternities adopted the orphaned statutes. Their members guarded local bridges, ran hospices, and financed skirmishes against Moorish strongholds. They never called themselves Templar in daylight, yet meeting minutes copy the Latin rule verbatim. A 1320 Cistercian diary lists guests of the temple habit who arrived barefoot, refusing the luxury of horses, signing the ledger with a broken arm cross. The glyph drifts across Europe for 200 years, slipping between wars like a quiet watermark. Fast forward to the Enlightenment. Philosophes mock superstition but cannot resist romantic myths. Voltaire churns rumors of a hidden Templar fleet. Lamartine paints the knights as tragic guardians of lost liberty. Napoleon's officers haul cartloads of church scrolls to Paris, hunting secret treasure maps that never appear. The Templar name, cut loose from dogma, balloons into literature's favorite ghost. By 1960, the Holy See decides enough is enough. Canon lawyers gather in marble offices under humming fluorescents to examine every modern claimant to the Red Cross. Applicants present constitutions, bank ledgers, family trees said to run unbroken since Acre. One by one, the lawyers apply 3 questions. Do you vow poverty? Do you recognize papal authority? Do you own land in your private name? Most files collapse under scrutiny. Only 5 organizations survive the hearing. Militia Templi squeaks through by pledging communal property, silence, and exclusive use of the Latin rite. Their swords are sewn shut. Their bank account resides in a trust they may never touch. A notary types the approval and adds a warning. Wear the cross in humility or lose it forever. Meanwhile, rejected seals swirl into a shredder. The distinction between sanctioned brotherhood and theatrical imitation will shape every rumor from this point on. Enter 1989. The Berlin Wall crumbles on live television. 2 Italian university students watch history fall and feel the tug of chivalry. They hitchhike to Tuscany and knock at Castello della Magione. Their first mission is not swordplay, but scraping pigeon droppings off cloister stones. Years later, they will lead Jubilee patrols, but they start as janitors of memory. The early 2000s deliver an unplanned revival. Hollywood releases the Da Vinci Code. Search engines explode with queries for Templar treasure. Militia Templi's website, plain HTML with a black and white photo of the Castello, receives triple its usual traffic overnight. The prior adds a blunt line to the application form. State in 20 words why you seek admission. If you mention gold or the Grail, the inquiry ends here. 90% of thrill seekers evaporate before clicking send. In the Castello Armory, real swords hang tip down, blades permanently stitched into scabbards. Brothers practice footwork with wooden wasters under barrel-vaulted ceilings, once blackened by crusader torches. During inspections, an elder knight taps each seam to be sure temptation stays dull. Humility, they say, is sharpened on restraint. Spring 2025. Jubilee planners convene in a windowless Vatican basement. Swiss Guard captains and militia lieutenants diagram evacuation routes over city maps. One side bears halberds, the other rosaries, yet both recite Psalm 20 before adjourning. At first light, they rehearse crowd dispersals in an empty square, moving traffic cones while swifts dive through early sun. Opening day arrives. Metal detectors hum. Heat wavers above marble. Knights hand out water labeled with the papal seal and stamp pilgrim passports. When a child stumbles in the crush, a brother scoops her up, prays non nobis domine, and guides medics through the press. Smartphones pivot, social feeds flood, the Red Cross trends within the hour. Brother Francesco embodies the order's paradox. He co-founded a Milan tech startup, sold his shares just before a public offering, gave the windfall to a homeless shelter, and traded tailored wool for coarse linen. Now he works nights on patrol and rises for lauds at 4. I swapped stock options for silence, he says, eyes rimmed with exhaustion and something that looks stubbornly like peace. Pilgrim reactions split 3 ways. Some kneel for blessings, lips trembling. Others treat the knights like living exhibits and snap selfies. A Brazilian tourist asks, "Are those swords real?" The brother smiles, "Only the spiritual one." Laughter bridges language. The queue inches forward. Academia keeps its skepticism. Historian Elena D'Angelo calls the Jubilee assignment holy cosplay. She points out the order claims fewer than 200 professed members worldwide, hardly a standing army, yet when shown a high-resolution scan of Vox in Excelso, her finger pauses on the broken arm seal. Clement killed the name, she concedes, but maybe not the habit. That legal nuance still bites. Conspiracy forums ignite. Post after post insists the Knights guard secret tunnels beneath St. Peter's. We secure permission to tour the necropolis. Marble dust coats crypt walls. Ancient mosaics shimmer in flashlight beams. No red crosses appear, just worn inscriptions and the sigh of 20 centuries. Myth echoes louder than footsteps, yet some legends carry data. A 1320 Cistercian ledger notes guests identified only by a fractured cross symbol. Pattern-matching software links the glyph to an Aragonese tax roll from 1354, then to a Scottish charter in 1421 authorizing bridge repairs by men of the temple habit. The trail never ends. It only fades to whispers. Night settles. Vatican lanterns paint long shadows across travertine. A knight salutes a Swiss halberdier. 2 institutions once wary now share a beat. History folds into present tense like vellum pages pressed shut. Overhead, constellations once charted by crusader navigators flicker through light pollution. Back at the Castello, novices cram canon law for dawn examinations. They must explain why vows remain binding after 7 centuries. Failure means repeating the year as a lay aspirant. Success earns the white cloak at Pentecost. In the refectory, supper consists of lentils, dark bread, and silence thick enough to taste. Sunrise mass unfolds in the cloister. No gold chalice, only clay cups baked in a local kiln. The prior raises the host and whispers, "We lost the temple when we chose silver over silence." Heads bow, sparrows flit beneath beams that once held crusader banners. Technology, strangely, becomes the next crusade. The order unveils body cams that mute audio whenever a priest's stole appears on screen. Live streams will show pilgrim aid in real time while shielding confessions. Silicon bends, if awkwardly, to the rhythm of Siena. Meanwhile, scholars digitize every known papal bull. Neural networks flag forgeries, reconstruct missing Latin, and offer side-by-side comparisons of scribal hands. Documents, once guarded by velvet ropes, now load on a phone before the incense smoke clears. Which circles us back? If a brotherhood keeps its vows, does a medieval suppression still matter? Or does service define survival better than any legal seal? The camera lifts above helmet crests, catching first light. Somewhere in the bell tower, a clock strikes 6. Bronze echoes swirl over roofs tangled with television dishes. Midnight returns. A silver trumpet announces Compline. Pilgrims drift home. Knights kneel as the holy door closes for the night. What prayers rise in that hush? We cannot say. The rule binds their tongues. Silence, it seems, remains the final armor. High above, the dome glows against indigo sky. A voice asks, Did the Templars die, hide, or simply wait? Decide for yourself in the comments below. Before the screen fades, one last promise. Wednesday we dive into Hiroshima, the 600-meter fireball that rewired the world. Like, subscribe, and keep your armor polished. The past isn't done with us yet.